Thank you once again for this really exciting webinar where we at Vocareum are going to talk about our collaboration with Google Colab. By way of introduction, I'm Sanjay Srivastava. I'm the founder and CEO of Vocareum. And with me, we also have Julianne DeMars-Smith, senior software engineer from Google, and Peter Kim, who's a senior software engineer at Vocareum. So there are actually a few of us on the webinar. So if you have questions while we are presenting it, please go ahead and feel free to ask them in the Q&A section, and hopefully someone will get back to you right away, or otherwise we'll leave some hopefully 15 minutes at least towards the end for Q&A. So let me turn on the, no idea how to turn this thing off. So agenda, for those of you who might not be familiar with Vocareum, I'll just do a very quick sort of overview of Vocareum, what we are all about, and then I'll hand it off to Julianne to talk about Google's and Colab's perspective, and then we'll do a demo of the product. So just a little bit about Vocareum. We have been around for about 10 years, and our mission is to provide real-world hands-on lab environments and cloud resources for education. We have about 4 million learners who are actively using our platform for learning data science, cloud computing, Python, cybersecurity, and all sorts of different subjects. We are there in about 7,000 universities, and we have 10 major edtech partners. So if you're going to Udemy or Udacity and maybe learning about cloud computing or data science, often you're using our labs underneath the infrastructure, and you might not even know it's labs are provided by us. So our mission, once again, is to provide cloud resources, Gen AI resources, and compute resources to learners and do it at scale. So often what happens is these resources, you have some unique challenges to make sure it access to millions of learners. Sometimes about budget management, sometimes about integrating it to learning management systems or in the teaching workflow like assessment. So here are some of the sort of significant resources that we provide: cloud resources, AWS, Azure, GCP, and Databricks. For Gen AI, we have a product called AI Gateway, which you can use to deliver Gen AI resources to the classroom. And then we will be talking a lot more about compute here. So we can integrate to various compute resources, which you can then deploy it in your classroom. So we'll talk about Colab, and then recently we also did some demo with NRP infrastructure as San Diego Supercomputing Center. So what's Vocareum AI Notebook? So this is the sort of a purpose-built product from ground up to serve as an interface between the compute and the learning management systems. So the capabilities that we provide are things like, you can create assignments and you can auto-grade, you can assign, you can deploy strategies like team projects and peer reviews. And on the compute itself, you want to provide a flexible compute environment. So it can be Colab, and I think I already mentioned that some of the options there. So at this point, I will just hand it off to Julianne. And
Hi, yeah, can you guys hear me okay? Okay, great. So hi, I'm Julianne. Thanks for the introduction, Sanjay. I'm a senior software engineer working on Google Colab. I've worked on the tool for a year and a half now. I've worked on various features. Primarily, I was working on AI features, so like our Gemini chat, generate features, inline completions, all those sorts of inline AI goodness. But then my heart has always really been in the education space for Colab, because actually before I was on the Colab team, I taught and now still teach Python classes to beginner coding students within Google itself, and I use Colab to administer my classes. So I've always had a very vested interest in making Colab work better for instructors, both for myself, but also just because I think it's such a powerful tool for new people learning Python, people learning data science. There's just a lot of benefits to it. So I'm currently leading a team that's totally focused on making Colab work better for users in the educational space. So Sanjay, if you want to go forward in the presentation, One motivating example for why I care so much about EDU users in Colab is kind of this equity aspect. And I think this quote from a professor at the University of Colorado really sums it up. So I'll just read it. So there's an equity aspect of Colab. Not everyone has a high-end laptop. When everyone has the same computing experience, resources, and instantaneous access, it allows us to find more talent randomly distributed around our student population. We want to find those people and help empower them to do well. Colab has been the best solution to do that so far. So I think Colab, particularly in the way that it gives away so many free compute resources, on top of just being a really great Python editor, we also give away a bunch of GPU, CPU compute to like free tier users. And I think it really levels the playing field, particularly in the educational space, which is so important for people who have backgrounds of all different shapes and sizes. But also, if you want to advance to the next slide, there's a huge market here just in terms of like making our users happy. So a recent poll of Colab users yielded the data that 76% of people self-reported themselves to be EDU users. So that's 59% students and 17% educators. So we just like, I think this really highlighted just how many of our users are in the educational space, and we haven't historically made a lot of features that are specifically for the educational space. So it just is a really nice marriage of things that we need to be doing for our users in general. But then 38% of educators actually reported that creating lecture materials is their top area of improvement. And their two largest complaints were auto grading. Basically in Colab, we had like no auto grading support at all, and LMS integration. So if we can meet the needs of these educators, that's also going to help us. I'm sure there's a lot of educators on the call, and you know how hard it is, number one, to create curriculum, and also the huge burden that you have in like, teaching the next wave of computer science people and guiding them in like what tools to use. And so if we can really improve the experience for making lecture materials and homeworks, et cetera, better, that's going to help us reach a ton of people that we haven't reached before. So that's kind of our motivation here. And we can advance to the next slide. The story right now for creating lecture materials is pretty sad. Currently, if someone wants to use something like NBGrader is an auto grading tool that exists, but for Jupyter, not for Colab. And it has a good amount of usage. I've heard from a lot of professors that like to use it. But so basically the experience is for them, if they want to use Colab, they'll author a lot of the instruction in Colab, of the assignment in Colab, and then they'll move over to Jupyter to like set up the auto grader. They'll send out the homework in Jupyter, and then encourage the students to like go back and like convert it to Colab and work on it there. So it's this really hackneyed experience, but also it really highlights how helpful auto grading is, because even though like they're doing all of that extra work, they're still getting a lot of time back from just using auto grading. Or they can just do manually grading assignments, which is really not the best experience, especially when you have like a team of graders doing all different types of grading. And then in terms of LMS integration, that story for us is also pretty poor at the moment, like before the Vocareum integration. Basically, a lot of teachers will just have their students submit a PDF version of their notebook file, which is just like very sad, because then the instructor can't like run the code. They can only really see the outputs and like read the code. And also our printed PDF function is like terrible. So this just highlights we're kind of underserving our teachers right now, and we're really hoping that this integration can help. So one last slide here, and then I'll pass it back to Sanjay. This is where Vocareum comes in. So I had the pleasure of like working with them a little bit on this integration, and I'm super proud of the way that it turned out. I've used NBGrader in the past, and I think that the Vocarium auto grading functionality here is way better and more intuitive to use than even NB Grader was, especially the way that you can like send out and receive the assignments from users. And I would totally use it in my classes. It would save me a ton of time. And then also, Vocarium has a great pathway towards direct LMS integration with those auto-graded assignments. So yeah, I'm super excited about the opportunities for teachers that Vocarium unlocks here. And yeah, I'm really excited about all of this. And I'll stick around until the end to answer any questions that people have.
So thanks, Julianne. So I will take it back here, and so we'll just talk about our Colab support. And I think as Julianne talked about, there are, we will focus on three core features: autograder support, LMS integration, and then another thing which we will show is that content generation itself, like how do you make it easier for teachers to use AI to support content generation. So let me just go through the demo, see if, can you guys see my screen, Canvas?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is actually, this is my sample Canvas demo sandbox. And so the integration not only works with Canvas, but will work with all LMS. We use LTI, we support both LTI 1.1 and 1.3. So here's a sample course where we have a few assignments, and one of the assignments is called Google Colab. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it. So if it was a brand new assignment, you would not see any of this, but as you can see, I've already submitted 39 times as a part of the demo. So otherwise, you will just see a blank screen, and then you can hit Colab. Now, what this would do is ask you to authenticate into your Google account. So I'm going to go ahead and pick this one, sanjay@vocarium.com, and provide the password. So this is all the password you're not providing to Vocarium. It's actually happening on the, on the Google side using the OAuth. So what you will notice here is actually, this is what we do is we populate the Google Colab with the starter code. The reason why the answer was here, because once again, from a previous run. So now you are in Google Colab. This is a fully native experience. All that we have done is just just showing the notebook with the instructor said. And so in terms of some of the things that you can do, for example, as I think Julian mentioned, it's like really awesome is that actually you can not only use CPU, but you can use GPUs. And I believe if I do that, now I'll be running on GPU, and you can, and it's all free. And so let's go ahead and there was a trivial assignment here. It says declare a variable named the answer and initialize it with the value 42. So there's a little hitchhiker guide to galaxy humor for those who know. So we'll just give it a wrong answer, right? And then there is a little bit more sophisticated problem, which is saying write a factorial function, which computes a factorial and use recursion. But let's go ahead and do this, and I'm going to just hit run. And sorry about that, it's hidden here. So it's saying it's initializing the backend, and now it's actually completed, right? So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And as you can see, this answer is wrong. And I'm going to go to my Canvas, and I'm going to go ahead and hit submit. And so this now, what is Vocarium is doing is actually pulling in your the students' submitted assignment from Colab, sending it to our autograder. And if you notice here, it's saying that, okay, this answer, you can see what you submitted, and of course it's incorrect. And it's also going to go ahead and send the grades to the the LMS. So one thing which you notice I forgot to mention, that once you're logged into your LMS, you do not need to create an account in Vocarium. And so that kind of sort of happens automatically. And now your grades are sent back. And of course, we'll go through the authoring experience and show how it is set up. So just to prove the point that it's working, I'm going to go ahead and give the right answer, maybe run it again and save the file. And let me go ahead and submit it again. This is, So what this should happen is now it should say it's 42 and the answer is correct. And at least for this, this particular rubric, it should send the right answer. As you can see, it's saying 1-on-1, right? It has been sent to the LMS. So this is the author experience. This is the student experience. Hopefully, not super convenient. Now, what I'm going to do next is show you a little bit about the what the end-to-end flow look like if you are signing up. This has started showing up on my Mac, and then okay, there you go. So so we'll show the end-to-end experience. Let's say you sign up for trial, create an assignment, and then publish it, right? So this is the URL colab.vocareum.com/trial. Anyone can go ahead and sign up and provide some basic information like your uh, department and course name and class size, and and since I've already have an account, I'm going to say I already have a Vocareum account. And at this point, I'm going to, there are multiple options. You can either use email password or you can get a send one-time code, but I was just going to go ahead and use my Google Authentic. I'll log in through Google. And once again, it's going to ask for some permission. And I forgot to mention that the only permission, it's not going to ask you to get your access to your Google Drive, but just to the space that the application creates. So we create a directory and then we will just, we just need a permission to that. So now what this is doing is actually creating a course for you, and it'll populate some sample assignment and enroll you as a teacher for this course. It can take a minute or so. Okay, now the course is created. And the first thing you see is take the tour. So I'm just going to go ahead and do start the tour. So it'll tell you, okay, here's the assignment. And when you need to create the assignment, you can, hit new assignment. And I'm not going to go ahead and go through the entire tour, but let me just go ahead and exit it here and create a new assignment. And I'm going to call it CS1 and save and continue. So at this point, let me just go ahead and publish the grades. There are a few features here like team projects and peer reviews and leaderboards and all, just to keep the sort of keep track of the time. I'm not going to go into this, but if there are any questions or later on, we can always go through these features. But once you have created an assignment, you hit configure workspace, and this is where you set up your auto grading. So there are some instructions here, but let me just go ahead and upload the file which I already have. This is the same assignment which I was showing through the student experience. So just to talk a little bit about the NB grader. So you'll notice this is a Jupyter notebook, but there are some NB grader tags here. So for example, there's this is an auto graded answer, and this is, you can set this cell to be, if it's a code cell, then you can set it to be read only, or you can set it to be auto graded tests. And when you do that, then the system asks you for what's the rubric name and what's the score. And then you provide assertion. So in this pragma under begin hidden test and end hidden test. So once again, this was trivial. So it says it's just asserting that the answer is 42. And if the answer is correct, it says, gives a feedback to the learner that your answer is correct. Or if the assertion is triggered, then it says your answer is incorrect, right? Now, just to make the point that you can obviously write more sophisticated tests, here's an example where you're not only checking whether the function is working correctly, but you're writing some code to check whether it's actually using recursion. But the key point is, once again, you have to assert whether this is correct or not. And as Julianne mentioned, this is the NB grader. So once you do that, you publish the notebook.
I think you're missing a rubric name or score, Sanjay.
What's that? This is a published notebook.
Try refreshing the page.
Huh? What's that?
Could you try refreshing the page? Just reload the notebook.
Always happens in live demos. Okay, let's try this again. Publish notebook. There you go. So publish notebook, and yeah, there's a little glitch. We have to go and look at what happened there. But a publish notebook, we should bring up this dialog box. And now what this is doing is actually extracting the notebook and getting it ready for the learners. And as you can see now, it's saying it's set up successful. Now at this point, you can hit student view to test what it would look like for the student. And this should take you to a page like what you already saw. And so once again, I'll go ahead and sign in Google Colab. And that should take me to that should populate the Peter, what do I need to do? Okay, I'm logged in.
You have to switch the Gmail user. Yeah, so click on that.
Okay, got it. Okay, I have to switch in as. It's actually, so now as you will notice is that it is, so what, as a sample student, we have extracted all the tests and extracted a solution and presented it to the student so that they can go ahead and you can test it out, right? And once you are done, and I'm not going to go through it because I already showed it as a student because the same assignment. And now once you're done, you go back here and you can actually publish the assignment. So once you publish the assignment, it becomes available for the students. So one more thing, now you can enroll the student by hand, but what's more important is that if you go to the setting here, you can actually connect it to an LMS. So you say LTI, you turn it on. There's LTI 1.1 or 1.3. We support both of them. There are some options, and then you can provide a course level access here. So this requires someone who has administrative privilege to come and actually connect it up for 1.1. For 1.3, for 1.1, you can do it as a teacher. You can actually connect to the LMS yourself without any privileges on the LMS side. So that's the flow for how to make the assignment. And obviously there are other features like we did not go through it. For example, here the submission. So now you can see all the, I guess that no student has submitted here but if you can see all the student submission, you can manually give them some score, give them feedback, all sorts of things outside of just auto grading. So at this point, I will hand it to Peter to show our AI features.
Good. Thanks, Sanjay. So yeah, everything that Sanjay showed is available right now with our free trial. I just wanted to take a quick moment to kind of give a sneak peek on something that is actually going to be available next week. And it's going to be incorporating the use of our Vocareum AI assistant to create auto grader tests for the instructor. So in this example here, I just have a couple problems that ask the user to use loops to do various operations on a list in Python. Now, this notebook, the only thing I've done is I've added the solutions for each of these problems. And I haven't set any of the AutoGrader markers that are necessary for the AutoGrader to work. But with this new button here, Generate AutoGrader Tests, I can just click this, and then it's going to automatically scan the notebook, determine which cells are auto-graded answer cells, and then for each of those cells, it's going to use AI to then generate a sample auto-graded test cell for each of them. So the process takes a little bit of time because we do multiple iterations to make sure that the quality of the answers are up there. So I can see that the first, so the first cell here, this was the test that was generated, and then the second cell also had a test generated. So of course, with AI, sometimes, like for example, here it repeated the solution cell. So of course I could manually edit it myself and delete it. But alternatively, I can always just go back and select an individual cell and then generate a test for that. So I'm going to regenerate the test for this first cell. And I can also add like an additional prompt if I wanted to be more specific about the kind of response that I want. And yeah, so here's another solution. I can accept, reject, or retry it. I'm just going to approve it for now. And then yeah, here it has the cell generated with the test marker applied. All I need to do is then give it a rubric and then a score. And then if I did it for this one as well, I can go ahead and publish the notebook and then just go through the flow that Sanjay already showed. Yeah, this is a feature we're excited to have available soon, and we're also just going to be continually working to improve it and just make the lives of instructors a little bit easier.